And welcome to Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. I'm Steve Swatt with the Sacramento Report. In the next few minutes, we're going to talk about safety concerns with the prospects of oil tanker trains passing through California communities. My guest this segment is Roger Dickinson, who's a member of the State Assembly from Sacramento, the author of significant legislation in this regard. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here, Steve.
So this is a growing, emerging issue that we really didn't face in the years past.
It's become a huge issue, and just in the last 5 years alone, for example, we've seen a 4,000% increase in the amount of oil being shipped by rail through California. In 2008, for example, we had about 45,000 barrels of oil shipped for that entire year. In 2013, that was up to over 6 million barrels of oil. That's a 135-fold increase. And this is not going to slow down. We know that the oil is being gotten out of the ground in places like North Dakota and other places and shipped increasingly to refineries here in California.
Right, and it's going through communities like Sacramento and Davis on the way to Benicia Refinery, but also going through the Tehachapis to Los Angeles, and so I know there are a lot of concerns about what happens if there's a spill. Are we prepared for it, and do we need more information to sort of prepare for it?
And that's really the thrust of my legislation, is to make sure that our state and local first responders have the information they need in a timely way in order to be prepared to respond in the case of an incident, and to respond as effectively as possible, both for their own safety as well as the safety of the communities in which a spill might occur. And we saw a real tragedy in Quebec last year, for example, where 47 people lost their lives when a shipment of Bakken crude oil, which is extremely flammable, was on a train that derailed, and it exploded and incinerated virtually a town there. So this is something where we need to make sure that we are as careful and cautious. This rail shipment makes sense. It's a good way to move it, to move the oil, but we want to be very careful that we're prepared if there should be some kind of incident that occurs.
So you want certain information from the railroads?
Yes, we're asking the railroads through my legislation to provide information on a quarterly basis about the nature of the material being shipped, including other hazardous materials besides oil, the nature of the vehicles being used, because that's important, the timing, the length of the trains, information that would give first responders what they need to know in order to respond quickly and effectively. And we're also calling for the railroads to maintain a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day communication center, so that in the event of an incident, first responders can get on the phone in real time and get the information they need from the railroads about that particular shipment.
A recent environmental impact report for a Valero project in Northern California indicated that the likelihood of a bad spill is very remote.
Well, it doesn't matter how remote it is likely to occur, as we've seen with derailments across the United States and Canada. So it may be rare statistically, but when it happens, it creates a situation which is enormously dangerous, as we saw with the Quebec incident. So in these cases, it's likely not a question of if there'll be an incident, it's when.
Should the general public have this information?
I think as much as possible we want to make information available to the public so the public can also evaluate that information and make plans accordingly. But we also have to be careful here, because some information, if it gets into the hands of the wrong people, could be used in a very tragic and destructive way.
All right. Well, it's a fascinating subject, and it's one that's making headlines really throughout the state, throughout the country. Roger Dickinson, thanks for coming by and talking about it.
Always glad to be here, Steve.
And thanks to our viewers for watching Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. A reminder, you can see this and other interviews just like it on YouTube, also on My Government on Demand. I'm Steve Swatt. Have a great day.